to get your questions, and hopefully we'll have some good answers for you. So the first thing I want to cover today is what being a shareholder really means. Then we're going to talk a bit about our 100% stock back move. We've increased the price of our shares to 18 cents. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the market for iConsumer stock, the stock market pricing. Just in case you don't know how iConsumer works, we are going to talk a little bit about that, about iConsumer. If you want to sell iConsumer stock, it is possible. We're not sitting here and recommending it. We think it's a long-term play, but we're going to go into that a bit. We want everybody to maximize their ownership, so we are going to be spending a bit of time on that. And then again, if we don't answer those questions in the process of this webinar, hopefully we'll be able to answer them at the end of the webinar. This is scheduled for 45 minutes. I don't think it'll take that long, but it depends on the number of questions that we get. So let's talk a bit about what iConsumer is all about. The notion behind it is you go shop, you go share, and you get shares, and you are sharing and caring. And along the way, you're going to be learning what it's like to be an investor in a public startup. And that's a pretty interesting place to be. So my fingers are a little too nimble there. We are going to talk today and every day about shopping, sharing, and learning. First and foremost, what makes iConsumer different than just about any other company you deal with is that you own a piece of iConsumer. Every time you go shop at one of 2,100 different stores, you're getting a bigger piece of iConsumer. That means we think, and everybody tells us, that your interests are exactly the same as our interests. We want you to reap the benefits of the company's success. And that mostly comes about if we're able to increase the stock price. Now, again, this is a startup, and so this isn't about short-term profit. We're a long-term play. But in the meantime, you're also going to hear us talk about a really important concept called liquidity. How easy is it to buy and sell our traded stock? And the stock ticker symbol is RWRDP. That's reward with a P on the end. And you can see what iConsumer it was worth, 5 minutes ago just by Googling. OTCQB, RWRDP is what I put in 2 or 3 times a day. It doesn't change that often. We're not heavily traded, but it's still a lot of fun to see. And again, we're going to focus not on the stock price because that's a future. We're going to talk about the here and now and what we're going to be doing to help make that stock price higher and to help make it easier for you to sell our stock. Talking about us being a long-term play, I want to emphasize that iConsumer is still early stage. We're early stage like Uber, which is losing billions and billions of dollars, or Lyft, or Snap. Amazon lost money for 10 years plus. It is a 5 to 10 year horizon to be able to really, we think, to really reap the rewards of being an investor in iConsumer. And remember, you become an investor in iConsumer. You help build your nest egg every time you go shop at this 2,100 different stores. One of the things that makes us different is our desire to have 1 million shareholders, and that's why we're a public company. The laws in the United States require us, if we're going to have that many owners, to be treated as a public company. Now, the benefit of that, one of the benefits of that, is that you get to see things that you might not see with other companies. For instance, you know how much money we make or how much money we lose. You can see where we spend our money. You can see how we spend our money. So we're a much more open book, if you will. Try finding that out for, I don't know, Ebates, a small company you may have heard of. And we're going to compare ourselves a couple of times to Ebates because indeed Ebates is a great company, but it's a sort of a black box. So the other thing I want to reiterate is that watching our stock price basically is for fun. Some people may go out there and try and trade it and make a profit on it. We are highly illiquid. It's hard to buy or sell and very volatile. The price keeps going up and down sort of radically. And we're going to show you how radical the price movements have been. So that's the learning part of all of this. We're in this, I'm in this, I hope you're in this, to take this company a long distance. And the goal is to actually get the stock price to be $4 or better. And I'm not going to go into it today, but there's actually a little bit of science behind why a stock price of $4 per share is important to us. So we talk about comparing ourselves to Ebates. Ebates was founded in 1998. It was sold in 2014. That's, we talked about that 10-year horizon. Theirs was a 15-year horizon. It took them $85 million of invested capital, but at the end of the day, with about 2 million members, they sold for just about $1 billion to the Japanese. That made a bunch of venture capitalists and founders very, very happy. But guess what? The folks who built the company, the customers, the members, they got not a big fat check, they got a big fat zero. And we think there's a better way. And we talk about it. We talk about it all the time. We talk about it on our landing page right now, right? So you're building the next Ebates. Each and every one of you, every time you shop, every time you tell friends, are helping to create a company worthy of 1 million shareholders. And so it's really a lot of fun. And at the end of the day, it may very well be very, very rewarding. So let's talk a bit about why we've now gone to 100% stock back. Those of you who have been with us forever know that we started out with stock and a bit of cash back. And then for a small amount of time, we did stock and Bitcoin back. And then we transitioned to stock and cash back again. And that was during the times when we didn't yet have all of the pieces in place to do what we've always really wanted to do, which is a pure message. Single and singular, because nobody else does this. You earn stock in iConsumer every time you shop. You earn publicly traded stock in iConsumer every time you shop online at 2,100 different stores. You shop, you earn, you learn. Now, as a practical matter, it has some really great things from us for us as a company. First, the cash generated from each of your purchases is greater because we're not sharing that cash with you, because we're keeping that for ourselves. Greedy, it sounds like. We're using that to help build the business. So we think that we can reach our goal of $4 per share or even higher much faster than we would have otherwise. It also makes it easier to get there because we don't have to have as many members doing this. And that then should reduce the amount of money it costs us to acquire those members. And that should reduce the amount of money we need to raise from outside of the business, so that we're really dependent on our members to provide the major engine for building the next great Ebates. So another thing that this did for us is it gave us the wherewithal to make it easier to use iConsumer, especially in the stock portion, right? So we now can include the cost of stock issuance and stock transfers as part of your membership. So it is now free for you to get your stock out of iConsumer onto the transfer agent's books. We're going to go into the detail of that in a bit, if you're transferring at least 1,000 shares. And if you're ready to sell, when you're ready to sell on the market, you need to use a stockbroker. You need to move your stock from iConsumer, from the transfer agent's books into the stockbroker's books, we're going to pick up the cost for doing that as well. So that's 5,000 shares. One of the things that we found in trying to make sure that everybody learns what it's like to be an investor in a public company is getting that stock into a stockbroker's hands is a part of the learning curve. So we wanted to reduce the challenge that our members were seeing with doing that. So another thing we did as part of all of this was we increased the price of our stock in our direct offering to 18 cents a share. Formerly, it was 15 cents a share, right? And what we're talking about is the price we charge you when you buy your stock from us. That's also the price we use when we calculate how much stock back you get from a purchase. Another thing that we did is we increased, if you wanted to buy stock from us, actually write us a check, we increased the minimum purchase amount to $1,000. And I wanted to reiterate that the market price, the price that you see when you Google OTCQB, RWRDP, is not controlled by iConsumer. So that 18 cents a share has no direct bearing on what the price of iConsumer stock is being bought for or being sold for in the stock market. Why did we do this? Well, first, we wanted to make sure that mid-sized purchasers of our stock, if they want to invest $1,000, $2,000, maybe $500, they go to the stock market to do that. They don't buy it from us. They don't buy the stock from us. And that's good because it helps to get investors, that's you guys, liquidity. Again, if you really need liquidity, I am always telling people it is a long-term play. We're not suggesting anybody go sell our stock. But if you want to, if you have to, if you decide you don't like the sound of my voice, if you decide that somebody else has a better proposition out there, if you decide for no good reason at all that you want to sell your stock, we want to make it easier for you to sell your stock. It also makes it more likely, we think, for people who are interested in iConsumer to become members, because the only really good way to get our stock in small amounts is to go become a member and shop. And again, you can Google it, or our favorite place, or my favorite place to go to see information about our publicly traded company, your publicly traded company, is on the OTC markets, and there is the link for it. Let's drill into it. This is what you're going to see when you go there. If you went there, I'm gonna bring up some arrows, right? So if you went there on what is this? This is as of June 19th. You saw that the people were buying and selling our stock at 12 cents. The best bid. Let's see. I'm going to try and bring up a pointer here. Is that working? Laser pointer. There we go. I love technology. Someone was willing to spend 10 cents to buy 5,000 shares. Someone was willing to sell 9,900 shares for 11 cents. And our market cap was about $13 million. That's the valuation of iConsumer at that point in time, basically as of the close of business on June 18th. And up here, as you can see, that was when this date was. And that's basically, the math is really simple. It's 108,290,123 shares times 12 cents, better equal $13 million. So here, let's take a look at, let's see if I can't make this thing without the cursor. There we go, that worked. This is as of, give or take, 11:30 Chicago time. So in the 2 months since we last showed our members these screens, the stock price is at 17.5 cents per share. So that's up from 12 cents. That's great. Again, this is all about the fun part of iConsumer, because we're not really being traded a lot. Let's bring those arrows up one more time. Right, so that's down 2% from the day before. let's see, one more arrow here. That's the date, and there we go, more arrows. The thing that I do care about, so the bid was 9 cents. Someone would buy 10,000 shares at 9 cents. The best offer, someone's willing to sell for 16 cents. And look what's happened to our market cap. It's almost $19 million, and that's because it's 108,290,123 times actually 17.9 was the numbers, the close yesterday. But here's an interesting number to watch. It's the average volume. So one of the things that is good for all of us is to get the volume up. And that means that more and more people are interested in buying and selling iConsumer. So that's where we spend some time actually making sure that there is an active market for RWRDP. Just a couple more screens that you would see if you went to the OTC market site. You're going to see the quote, right? So here we're seeing that a market maker, and all this stuff is explained over at Shareholder Academy. I'm not going to go into too much detail. They're willing they're bidding 9 cents, and they'd buy 10,000 shares. And over here, a market maker, Citadel, has on behalf of either themselves or on behalf of a shareholder, is willing to sell 5,000 shares at 16 cents. So that's what you're seeing there for the quotes. And then if you go to that page, if you Google OTCQB, RWRDP, you'll see a history, depending on the page you go to, you'll see a history of the trade data. So here we see that yesterday, someone sold 400 shares, and they paid 17.5 cents, or they reaped 17.5 cents for those shares. The last trade was on the 16th. The last trade before that, someone was at 17.9, 18 cents, 10 cents, 16 cents. So you can see that the price has varied rather considerably. You can also see this as a pretty graph on everybody's dashboard. iConsumer.com/html/mystats.cfm, you'll see this pretty graph, and you can see, as I was talking about, the ups and downs of our stock price. Indeed, you can see that it was as high as 40 cents on very low volume a month or so ago. All right, so that's a recap of iConsumer and the stock market stuff. This is pretty complex, and so we fully expect people to have questions, to have observations. Many people who are iConsumer members are first-time investors in a public company, not even just a public startup. I'm going to put a plug in for Shareholder Academy, and I'm going to put a plug in for our Facebook group, and I'm going to get back to those sort of on the end screen. So we have lots of ways for you to learn more about what iConsumer is doing and learn a little bit more about what it takes to be a shareholder, an active shareholder or an inactive shareholder in a public company, from us and from your peers. That's what the Facebook group is for, and to a lesser extent, our blog at Shareholder Academy. So here's a recap on how iConsumer works, right? You shop at about 2,000 stores. I think we've broken the 2,100 number. I'm not entirely certain. Stores come, stores go, but about 2,000, 2,100 stores. My favorite, I just booked a flight on Expedia for Thanksgiving, right? So going and seeing family, and I'm going to get some more iConsumer shares. We make money when that happens, right? So if I had bought a sweater at Macy's, Macy's is going to pay us, give or take, a 5% commission. We share that commission with you in the form of stock, right? So we're getting in cash, and effectively, you're buying our shares with that commission that we're getting from Macy's. So we get revenue, and revenue is a really important thing to have in a company, and you get a bigger ownership stake. You also get a bigger ownership stake for referring shoppers and some other things from time to time. All right, next screen. So you now have that ownership stake. How do you actually sell it if you want to sell it. Again, we're not suggesting that you sell it, but if you want to, we're making it possible. So the first thing you have to do is take it off of our books, transfer your stock from iConsumer to our transfer agent, Issuer Direct. And there's a cost to that. We're required by the SEC to make sure that you're not a terrorist, that you're not on these various and sundry nasty lists. So as long as you're not on the nasty list, we're allowed to transfer it to you. That costs us money. Because we went to the 100% stock back, we're now in a position to pay for that cost without charging you a nickel. So as long as you're transferring 1,000 shares or more every month, we're transferring shares. It's online, you click a button, and away you go. Let's say then, great, you have this stock at the transfer agent, and now you want to, for whatever reason, be able to have it in your brokerage account, your stockbroker account. TD Ameritrade, Fidelity, Schwab, Northern Trust if you're a rich person. We like TD Ameritrade for this because they are every day accepting deposits of iConsumer stock. So it's a cool thing. TD Ameritrade does a nice job. So you go to TD Ameritrade and you say, I want to transfer my stock from Issuer Direct. They say, great. They send a request to Issuer Direct. Issuer Direct tells us about it. So long as you're transferring at least 5,000 shares, we're going to pick up the cost for doing that. That's how Issuer Direct makes its money. And so we're going to pay that if you're doing 5,000 shares or more. It takes 5 to 10 days for that to happen. So now you've got this stock sitting in your TD Ameritrade account and you want to sell it. Every stockbroker has a little bit different way of doing this, but you place a sell order with your stockbroker, you choose the price at which you're willing to sell, and if somebody's willing to buy at that price, you'll sell your stock. So there are no guarantees that at any given time, someone wants to buy your stock at the price you want to sell it. So that's the caveat, right? So remember I told you there was a one button kind of a thing. I'm on the iConsumer dashboard, and I have 4,700 shares earned, and I want to transfer them. I would press my transfer my earned shares button, and voila, it would happen almost magically. Technology is wonderful, right? So I have a duplicated slide. I don't need that. All right. Let's talk a bit about how you make that 4,700 shares bigger, more, greater, a larger number, so that no matter what the price, you have more of it. First and foremost, always shop on iConsumer. If you can possibly do it and you're interested in feathering your nest, go shop. Now, we make that easy. We have the iConsumer button. We have an app. We have a website that is simply chock-a-block full of specials and coupons and deals, so that not only are you feathering your nest in the future, you're saving a buck or two here in the present. We think that's really important. I like a deal. I'm sure you do as well. Next, we rely on you to tell new people about iConsumer. So we're going to reward you when you refer new shoppers, 250 shares per new shopper. At 10 cents a share, that'd be 25 bucks. At 50 cents a share, that'd be a much bigger number. Because I can't do 250 times 50 cents right now, because it's $125, and that's a really big number to get for referring a friend. And we're not leaving your friend out of this. They're going to earn 500 shares when they make that first qualifying purchase. And of course, you're always welcome to invest in iConsumer directly. We spend that money, we invest that money on gaining new members. When we pay for Facebook ads or we pay for Google display ads or however we're doing it that week, that's where the money comes from, in part, to make all that possible. That's at www.iconsumer.com/invest. And why are we doing this? What's the secret sauce? We think the more valuable we are, the more likely our stock price is to go higher. Unfortunately, we don't control the stock price. We can control, you can control how valuable we are. Then there's another piece of the puzzle. We have to make people understand that that value is something that they want to buy into. And that's what's going to make the stock price go up. That's where that $4 goal comes from. Again, our stock price on the market is volatile and impossible to control. The only thing we really can control, the only thing you really can control, is how much shopping happens and how many people do that shopping. We're working hard on it. I know you are. We're glad that you're taking the time out to attend this webinar to help us shop and earn and learn. But we're not in a position to make promises. And if we did make promises, the SEC, which regulates all of this, would be very unhappy with me. Just a real quick recap of where we're at, right? We started out selling shares at 4.5 cents a share in September of 2016. And today we're selling shares at 18 cents a share. How long that goes for, I don't know. It is a fun journey, and I'm really proud of the fact that we're almost 4 times what we were 3 years ago. Again, this is a public company, so you get to see our results online at iConsumer are always our most recent published financial statements. So you can go online and see them. You could also go to the SEC site, but we try to make it easier for you. The SEC site can be a little bit confusing. Not only you can see how we've done retrospectively, but you can see what we're talking about, how we're going to grow, where we think that growth is going to be, where the risks are. We are still an early stage company, so there are certainly lots of risks out there that we have to navigate. And you can see that in our offering circular. It's a long document, some pretty pictures in it, but it talks about what we believe, what risks we've identified, where we think the market is going to take us, and sometimes it talks about what we're building. If we ever did acquisitions, it would talk about acquisitions, etc. We do have some other resources for you to take advantage of. Shareholder Academy at shareholderacademy.iconsumer.com. It's our blog. It's the learning center where we publish articles on this stuff so that we don't necessarily have to rewrite them every time in a support kind of a thing. I also wanted to take this opportunity to make sure you know that we are recording this and we love questions. The other thing that's brand new, and I didn't have a way of posting a link to it, is we have a Facebook group. And this Facebook group is limited. It's sort of invitation only. The way you get an invite is by being a shareholder. This is 2 weeks old. We're getting lots and lots of activity in it. There's been some great questions and even better answers as part of the Facebook group. So if you go to facebook.com/iConsumer, you'll see somewhere in that Facebook environment that you can join the Facebook group. And as always, if I've not explained something well, if Kim is out of the office for some reason, you can go to support.iconsumer.com and see answers to questions that other people have asked, or you can ask your own questions here. We have a really good support staff, and they love being able to answer questions rapidly. And lastly, to make the lawyers happy, because we are a public company, because we are talking about what might happen in the future, I would love to add to all of this a disclaimer And there it is. You can read it. I am not going to read it to you. And again, we have time now for questions and answers. We certainly have time for questions. And as long as I'm not too long-winded, we'll have some time for answers as well. So,
and we do have a question. Sarah Moore posted from earlier when you were talking about the referral program. She wanted to clarify that the shares bonus is if the referred person shops within 90 days and they have to earn $10. Can you confirm that for us?
I don't know that it's $10. It might be 10 shares.
I'm sorry, I
So
that.
we keep playing with this a little bit, so it's going to change from time to time. We talk about qualifying purchases, and the current definition of qualifying purchase is posted on our site. But basically, what we're trying to do is reward folks for referring real people who do real shopping. At some point, we had somebody who invited a bunch of friends who each made a 25-cent purchase at Etsy. And while that was great, we can't afford to reward them with $25 worth of our stock if someone just makes a 25-cent purchase. So we talk about qualifying purchases. And as I say, that's going to change from time to time, but basically, real people doing real shopping are valuable to us. And they're valuable too. You own the company, right? Remember I talked about interests being aligned. That's exactly what we mean. We win, you win. You win, we win.
Anybody else have a question? We'll leave the questions box open for a couple of minutes, but we might actually get out under 45 minutes as you predicted, Rob.
Well, that's great. I did have a question that came in from Jennifer, and Jennifer asked me, is there paperwork to be signing in terms of the transferring of the shares from iConsumer to Issuer Direct, the transfer agent? And there is, but it's all electronic, right? So there is a purchase agreement that you're going to be electronically signing. And then when you're ready to move your shares from Issuer Direct into the hands of your favorite stockbroker, they're going to want to see that executed purchase agreement. There's actually an article in the Learning Center about the pros and cons of actually making that transfer. Is there, what are the benefits if you're not ready to sell your stock immediately to moving your stock out of iConsumer and into your stock brokerage account? One of the benefits is that the stockbroker says, oh, you've got 5,000 shares of iConsumer in your account. That's worth today, let's call it 20 cents. So that's $10,000 worth of, or $1,000 worth. I can't do math today. $1,000 worth of stock. And so you see $1,000 as part of your brokerage statement. Not that you can do anything with that $1,000. They won't lend you any money. It doesn't mean that someone will actually buy it from you for $1,000, but it's fun to see, right? Again, stock right now is it's fun to watch. It's better that it goes up. It's sad when it goes down, but we don't want you doing this for the near term. Do we have any other questions?
We do. Sarah has another question, and I think you like this one. I have a very small amount of cash that didn't quite add up to the $25 necessary to get a check. Can I convert that to stock?
Yes.
Well, that was a short answer.
It's a very simple thing. There's a button. There's a button on our site that says convert cash to stock, and so yes, we would love you to do that.
And that is on the dashboard as well?
It is. Everything's on the dashboard.
Everything is on the dashboard.
At least, and if it isn't, it's because it's too complex. We don't want to confuse people too much. Well, that is it for questions. Thank you, everybody, very much. Kimberly, thank you for moderating this today. If you do come up with a question later, support.iconsumer.com is truly your friend. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for being a shareholder. Thank you for telling your friends. And now, my closing thought, go and shop.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.